Guys, I want to officially admit that appointing Hansi Flick was a great decision by Laporta, right? I stand by Xavi. I'm a big fan, but he's the right guy. And you're going to see in the second half why I'm saying this. As always, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow. Let's start right away. At the start of the second half, Barcelona pretty much continued their dominance with the movement being pretty good and the positional play. We did see that Pedri often dropped in these areas right here, not so wide into the half space in order to continue the verticality for Barcelona. But it was not only Pedri that dropped in this area right here. We also see that Rafinha is also capable of dropping into these areas looking to find Pedri over here. But one thing I'm seeing right now with Hansi Flick's tactics, we are seeing the involvement of Balde in the last third less and less, as he's the one who's operating in this situation right over here, so that he can be the one who's drawing the players out of position, and then Pedri and Rafinha are better options in the attack. We see that with Jules Koundé as well, where he's dropping and drawing players out of position. Around the 60th minute mark, we saw a big change in how Hansi Flick elevated Barca, because he saw that Valladolid wanted to press higher and higher, which ultimately opened them up a little bit more. And this is where the big change in the game actually came. I actually want to remain here for a second and we look at how they try to press in a man-orientated situation. And this is where they killed themselves, because Hansi Flick actually noticed this, because Valladolid wanted to press Barcelona backwards and more backwards, ultimately getting back into the game. But this change right here was the nail in the coffin for Valladolid, because FERMIN came on for Pedri and Eric Garcia came on for Marc Casado. I think the logic for Hansi Flick here was that Eric Garcia is a better passer than Marc Casado, especially the vertical passes, and we all know why Garcia can play this way. And also with Fermin, you now have another player who's going to run in behind, especially now that Valladolid wants to run or press a little bit higher. Now Fermin Lopez is somebody that you can find in behind the defense. And with Pedri going off, that actually allowed Rafinha to be a lot more central along with Fermin and Olmo. And these guys circulated and moved all around the pitch in order to get on the ball, dropping deep, even sometimes both of them dropping out wide to get these players all to come to one side. And that allowed Alejandro Balde also to go forward, with Inigo drawing these players right here. So Olmo in particular could also find the space because of Rafinha and Fermin's mobility. So this was a master plan from Hansi Flick. He actually did this on purpose to kill Valladolid. I think Flick took Pedri off because he wanted to let go of the control, because Fermin and Olmo is very similar, always trying to go forward. So Flick wanted more from them. And Fermin started dropping into these little pockets of space that Pedri also dropped into. But for the most part, these guys operated on the left side and there was a lot of fluidity for them. And Olmo was enjoying a lot of space over on the left half space for them, right? Because you can see that these three were constantly operating and they had a lot of fluidity among them. But guess what, guys? Flick was not happy at all. He wanted even more from his players as he replaced Robert Lewandowski with Ferran Torres, yet another player who likes to run in behind and get the ball in these areas. Yet another player who's mobile and can drop into these pockets of spaces. For example, if Rafinha goes wide, then Ferran Torres can easily slip into these areas right there, and then Fermin Lopez can just run in behind if the defender actually follows Ferran Torres. So this was great tactics from Flick. Now you had four players centrally that can really drag the opponent all across the board, and partner that with a player that can really find these guys in these areas. Out wide, you have a supernatural player who's really in the prime of himself, who can take on his players, right? If he even comes in, then Barcelona has so many players centrally that ultimately would allow the fullbacks to go out wide. And you have a player like Dominguez and Inigo Martinez who can find these players in behind. It was just beautiful to watch. And this is all due to our manager, and he saw all of this and he made those changes for Barcelona. You can see here Fermin is running in behind because Olmo is dropping. And I actually feel like Flick is going to use Fermin to elevate Barcelona's fluidity even more, right? With the opposite movements that these players are constantly doing. And this is actually kind of worrying me for the sake of Pedri, right? Because Pedri is good at control. But if teams are going to open up, we're going to see a lot of opposite movements, and therefore the introduction of Fermin needs to take place. So I think that Flick wants to use Fermin in this way because he's great at what he's doing, right? Look at how Olmo is dropping, and now Fermin is running ahead of him. And this is pulling the opposition in all sorts of ways. And funny enough, Valladolid could not recover from this. If the game went on longer, we would have scored more, right? Rafinha is dropping onto the ball, and there's space for the guys to run in behind. So yeah, Fermin was a great addition, and that changes that he made. Fermin and Eric Garcia was just great for Barcelona. Like, it killed Valladolid completely. Guys, we've reached the end of the second half, right? Thank you very much for visiting the channel constantly and commenting and liking and subscribing. If you watched up until this point, just comment hat-trick, all right? Comment hat-trick. We upload weekly Barcelona content. Subscribe, like I said, as always. We upload the content only on Barcelona. Thank you very much for watching.